I think that revolution begins when it has already begun. The fact is that there are the conditions in the South Bronx have already existed for a long time for people to want to have a revolution. Revolution meaning, first we have to define revolution, because I know people are going to hear the word revolution, they're going to think like, oh, esto es un disparate, esto es una revolución, esto es violente. It's not a violent revolution. It's not, the word revolution, if you look in the dictionary, it says total change. It's a total change. That's all it is. And I think that to talk about the South Bronx and not to talk about total change is wasted time. If you really want to make a difference in what's happening in the lives of people in the South Bronx, the poorest urban congressional district in the country, which is rhetorical, everybody knows that, but what are the details of that? When it comes to, mental health, when it comes to, physical health, when it comes to, education, when it comes to jobs, when it comes to, housing, when it comes to, AIDS, when it comes to, you name it, we have it all. If you really want to change that, you just can't pick one thing out. You have to make a total change. Because if you change one thing, you give somebody a job, but if there's not housing for them, you got a problem. You give somebody housing, but if you don't give them a good job, you got a problem. You give somebody housing and then you give them a job, but you got terrible schools, you have a problem. So you have to make a total change. And that's what we mean by political revolution. We have to have, all aspects of this totally change. You can't continue to look at the norm and expect the norm to continue to work when the norm hasn't worked, because just look at the statistics. So if you know that it's not working, then you talk about making a major change. You have to make a major change in the school systems. We have to consider and look at whether standardized testing is the way to continue to go for our kids. That's not helping to develop critical thinking. In my days, they used to call it vocational high school. Well, we need to go back to some ways of vocational high school, but that don't mean vocational high school just to be, what some of the trades that we still need. We still need plumbers, we still need electricians, we still need auto mechanics and all that stuff. But you know what? There's another vocation that's now in place that we're totally, totally bypassing, which is technology. Our kids need to, you don't have to go to college, man. Zuckerberg left college, Steve Jobs, you can see the examples that you don't have to go to college. How many Steve Jobs do we have in our community right now that could develop? How many Zuckerbergs we have right here in the South Bronx right now? How many Spielbergs? Two of them could be looking at me right now, right? We have all this talent here, but there's no way to funnel that talent with the resources to let it flourish, to get it developed. And I need to work on that. I think we all need to work on that. So when I talk about a revolution, I'm talking about that type of revolution, that we have to make a total change in the way things operate in the Bronx from A to Z. To pick out one issue and say, I'm going to work on that issue only, that's not enough.